I frequently go bushwalking all throughout the Blue Mountains, which is located in Australia, and I have done since I was a kid with my dad. Sometimes for shorter walks I go alone. Yeah, that could be dangerous, and as a woman, I could have added risk of being attacked, but I carry a couple of knives with me so I don't really feel threatened, and I always bring a satellite phone. I just love and crave that feeling of being entirely surrounded by the wilderness. Anyways, around 5 years ago, I thought it would be a good idea to do an overnight walk by myself. Bad idea. The walk was fine. 3 or 4 groups of people came by the other way on the first day. I picked a little area to stay in overnight, cut a few ferns back, and I had a space to stick my little one-person tent. I was maybe 30 meters from the track, mostly out of sight behind trees and such. The usual wildlife noises were going on as I drifted to sleep. There was a strange noise I can only describe as a quote-unquote bounding sound, like somebody was sprinting through the bushes right past me, but it went by way too fast with too few steps to carry a person that distance. Also, if you've ever seen the bushes in this part of Australia, you know there is not much space on the ground to walk freely if you are off the track. You have to at least wade through bushes and ferns, so you can't exactly sprint full speed without falling. I felt a bit uneasy but thought it's probably just stuff falling from a tree. The next morning I had breakfast and packed up my things and kept going along the track. I passed a couple of people going the other way, then was alone again for maybe half an hour. Then I heard the sound of a stick being broken, like someone was stepping on it. The sound came from behind me and to my left, away from the track. I turned to look and nearly died on my feet. A fair distance into the bush was something standing there and looking directly at me. I wanted to believe it was a person, but it just wasn't. I can't judge the exact height, but it was obviously very tall. I would guess 9 feet. Its skin was dark gray or brownish in color. It had a horrifically large head with huge black eyes, and I could not see a mouth or anything. Its arms and legs were really long. I was nearly crying, tears welled up in my eyes. Completely frozen, staring at this creature, it was like my legs were locked in position. The longer the stare went on between me and the creature, I had this heightening feeling of absolute dread, like nothing I'd felt before. The fear built up until I could see my heartbeat in veins in my vision, and I suddenly bolted. I sprinted away, continuing on the track. I ran and was too scared to look behind me. Tears were streaming from my eyes as I was running away. I did not stop until I actually caught up with some people going the same direction as me. They looked at me and were saying, "Oh my god, are you alright?" I was disillusioned from running so hard for so long. I told them I saw something in the bush and asked if I could walk with them the rest of the way. It took me 6 months, but I finally did start bushwalking again. But I never go alone these days. You cannot pay me to do it. Too long didn't read. Perhaps I saw an alien in the Australian bush. The reason I say alien is because it didn't seem to have any fur, and was more lanky and thin than I would expect a giant mammal to be. In essence, it looked like a stretched out human with a greatly enlarged head and eyes, though the body proportions still looked off compared to a human, especially the length of the arms. This is going to be pretty long, so I apologize for that. I'm trying to include as much information as I can. As far as I know, the creature has never tried harming me, but it has oftentimes made me feel unsafe and threatened. As the years have passed, I've been paying less mind to it and just putting the feeling in the back of my mind. January 2012, I bought a horse and began boarding it at a very old barn. It was a small, tight-knit, friendly barn community which was not far from my home. It had been around since the 60s, surrounded by woods. There were 3 barns. The main arena was entirely surrounded by thick woods, and there were small trails in the woods behind the property. Fast forward to June 2012. I had 2 horses there now. I was there every single day without fail. 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. I basically fed the horses and cared for them. I rode one every night as well, mainly in the arena, but sometimes in the barnyard. There were no fields or arena lights, just the moon and stars. One evening around 5 p.m., I was sitting on my horse, letting her stand when she started snorting and backing up. I looked up and saw this whitish, grayish creature crawling out of the woods towards us. It had a very small round head and its eyes were just pits. It had a very small mouth, not much detail there. Its arms were very long and thin, and its fingers were also like that. Its rib cage was very pronounced and defined, and its legs were long and lanky. Its movements were very jerky, not smooth and fluid at all. It slowly jerked out to us when my horse turned and bolted out of the arena. She's calm and well-mannered, who had never spooked before this. Stubborn old mare, but not easily spooked. She would not go back into the arena that night. I walked her around the barnyard, staying near the main barn, put her up, and ran out to peek into the arena, to find nothing except some footprints where I saw the thing. Throughout the summer, I saw it peeking, almost dancing around the gate that led into the woods where the trails were. One night, roughly a month later, at about 9 p.m, I was riding that horse again in a front pasture. The moon was full and bright, and I looked to my left to see that creature running full speed by my side on the other side of the fence. I slowed my horse to a stop and took it off around the corner and behind the sidebar into the woods. Into the woods. I continued seeing it mainly in the woods. It was always around. Summer of 2013. The barn shut down when the owner died. We moved the horses to a friend's place for the time being and I didn't see it there. Late summer to fall 2013. I found a new barn. The woods were directly behind the barn and arena. This place had lights and was much newer. About a month later, when I was getting ready to leave, I heard something in the woods. I looked down the barn aisle into the woods and saw the creature running down the road into the woods. I saw it much less frequently for a while until later, in fall 2014, when I began seeing it in the back pasture woods. It darted in and out of the tree line. I saw a second one sitting in a neighbor's yard. It would sit in the same spot every day and watch me ride. I started taking pictures and sent them to a friend who claimed he and some others have seen it. I kept seeing it occasionally, but from a much greater distance than at the first barn. I went with this barn owner to another farm to get some stuff when I saw a very large version of this creature run out from the woods, right behind a tree I was 10 feet from, while I was alone by the trailer. Last November, I house sat for the barn owners. I went out around 2 a.m. to fill water troughs and enjoy the full moon and cool night. I was sitting in the back pasture when 3 of the creatures began coming from the woods. One came up to the trees near the trough where I was, while the other 2 were walking along the tree line. The horses were silently munching their hay, pretty far from where the creatures were. I messaged the guy from earlier and told him what was going on. Since that incident, I have not really seen them. Last summer, I did see one outside my house, staring into the windows. A few weeks ago, one was outside my bedroom window, tapping and making a strange, faint shrieking sound. This was a lot to type out, but I hope someone reads this and helps me make sense of this. I'm very open and willing to discuss more paranormal things that have happened with this. My friends have experiences with this, and anything else that could or could not be connected to this whole ordeal. When I was 12, around 2005, I saw something that I still cannot explain. It was nighttime and I was lying on my bed, enjoying the wonders of three-way calling, when something outside caught my eye. My bed had a window about 2 feet away from it, and I could see the tree outside my house very clearly from the head of my bed. As I ignored my friends, I looked out of my window and watched in shock as a tall metallic light blue creature leapt from the base of the tree onto one of the middle branches. Now there's no way in hell that a branch about 3 inches in diameter could hold a creature of that size. It was over 6 feet tall with smooth skin. It had a muscular build and strangely shaped facial features. Its head was proportionate to its body, but it appeared to have a short snout. Also, that leap would have been about 15 feet high, and it did it with ease. As I lied there in a mixture of shock and awe, the creature just crouched on the branch, watching me curiously. I did not feel any fear, just shocked at what I was seeing. After about 15 to 20 minutes of watching this thing sit there, it lifted its head and let out a call that sounded like if a duck was quacking underwater, and jumped down from its perch. I watched as it casually crawled back into the tree line and disappeared. I lived in the same house until 2015 and I would frequently walk about a quarter of a mile to my friend's house at night. The path was a dirt path, and on the right side directly next to the trail was a heavily wooded area, and to the left was an open field that was against a canyon full of springs and trees. Some nights, I could feel that creature nearby, and instead of frightening me, it would put me at ease. I've never seen it again, but it's something that has always stuck with me. I'm hoping someone may have a similar experience or some insight as to what I witnessed that night. So this seems to be the right place to tell of this incident that took place about 8 years ago. I am putting the words to paper, so to speak. On behalf of my brother who was there on the night, I can assure you that this is not made up. Hence why I am posting here to see if I could get some sort of feedback as to what my brother experienced. Any ideas or similar experiences are welcomed. My brother and his friends were walking back home through the woods when they all heard a snap of a branch. When they turned around to see what it was, they could see the silhouette of a figure at the top of the hill, about 100 meters away from where they had all just walked down. They watched as it quickly tried to hide behind a tree. My brother and his friends all asked each other if they had just seen that, to which they all replied yes. As they all continued to stare, my brother's eyes finally managed to focus within the difficult lighting. As it was nighttime and dark, he then described that he could see a head peeking from behind the tree, but in a very unusual way. It seemed to be tall and the motion of the head moving was different. This is when it gets terrifying. The thing steps out from the tree completely and stands at the top of the hill, almost as if it decides that this is when the overwhelming fear kicked in, because they could all see that the build of this thing could not be a person. He described it as being tall, skinny waisted, and having gangly long arms. Also, it didn't have your typical alien shaped head. And now to make things even worse, the thing starts to charge down the hill and into the field surrounded by trees where my brother and his friends were. He also said that the pace of the creature was definitely not human, as it gained ground very quickly. So obviously my brother and his friends ran for their lives. He did not want to turn around and look, as he was completely focused on getting away. My brother said as they were running, he could hear it stumble now and again, and he could also hear the footsteps gaining on them, giving him a good idea of the pace of this thing, which he emphasized on how scary it was. As they all approach the village, they come to the end of the field where a street lamp glows onto the edge of the field. He said once they got into the light, the creature came to an abrupt stop, as if it was scared of the light or that it did not want to be completely revealed. My brother and his friends kept running until they got home. I asked my brother's friends about the incident and they all still express how terrifying it was. My brother and I love wild camping. Once, the night before the day we were going to go camping, we stupidly began to talk of that night. We ended up not going because we creeped each other out so badly that we feared we might see the creature again while camping. I serve in the military, so as you know, I have done my fair share of sleeping and camping in the woods. That's just how scary this is to us. The level of detail and the fear in my brother's face and voice while he tells me of this night reinforces the fact that it actually happened. Me telling you here does not do the story justice, so I will try to get my brother to put his experience down on paper, and I will post it here so you get the proper details. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. Also, if you have any idea on what it was or had a similar experience, let me know too. Thank you.